In March of 2026, Ras Tanura, Saudi Arabia, it's early morning, and suddenly the alarms go off. Workers rush outside as one of the largest oil terminals in the world starts to catch fire. Iranian missiles and drones had crossed hundreds of kilometers of desert and struck directly at Saudi Arabia's main source of wealth. And it wasn't the first time that month. Iran had already attacked refineries, airports, and neighborhoods where people were sleeping. More than 100 projectiles in just a single week. 2 civilians killed, an American soldier who never made it back home. The pipeline that exports oil to the entire world was hit, and its flow of 700,000 barrels a day was simply cut off.
Iranians hit a refinery in Ras Tanura, Saudi Arabia on Monday morning.
The whole world stopped to see what Saudi Arabia was going to do, and Saudi Arabia did nothing. No retaliatory attack, no threat, total silence. Iran knew this pattern. In September 2019, Iranian drones and missiles had destroyed Abqaiq, the largest oil facility in the world, cutting half of all Saudi production in a single night. It was an unprecedented attack, and Saudi Arabia did not respond. They swallowed hard and stayed quiet. So Iran thought that March of 2026 would be the same. But they were wrong. What happened in the following weeks was never publicly announced. And when the story came to light, it shocked even those who have been following the Middle East for decades. Everyone, at some point in life, has asked themselves this question. How much can you take before you fight back? When does silence stop being prudence and become weakness? When does holding on stop being a virtue and become an invitation to take more hits? Mohammed bin Salman, the most powerful man in Saudi Arabia, was facing exactly this question. At 40 years old, the son of the king, he had spent the last few years turning one of the most conservative countries in the world into a destination for investments, international shows, and tourism. He bet the future of the kingdom on the economy, on business, on stability. But he is also someone who never backed down from a conflict when he thought it was necessary. And now there were missiles falling in his country. To understand what Saudi Arabia did, you first need to understand the scale of what Iran was doing. When the United States and Israel attacked Iran's military facilities at the end of February 2026, Iran responded, but it didn't respond by attacking the United States. It didn't respond by attacking Israel. Iran turned its missiles toward the Gulf countries, the sea that borders this entire region. Neighbors who had nothing to do with that war, Iran attacked all 6 Gulf countries at the same time. Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman. Countries that had stayed out of the conflict. Countries that had publicly said they would not get involved. It didn't matter. Iran attacked anyway. And look, the attacks weren't symbolic, they weren't warnings, they were real attacks, on real targets, causing real damage. In Saudi Arabia, a state-of-the-art American military plane was destroyed on the ground inside a Saudi military base. It wasn't shot down in the air during a battle. It was destroyed on the ground by an Iranian missile while it was stationary. Simply wiped off the map. That was a very clear message. Iran was telling everyone, no one is safe, not even the countries that stayed out, not even the American bases, no one. And do you know what Saudi Arabia did? In public, Mohammed bin Salman called for calm. He called leaders of other Gulf countries and told them not to do anything that could make the situation worse. The Saudi government issued official statements, condemned the attacks in polite terms, and moved on. It seemed like weakness. It seemed like Saudi Arabia was going to repeat 2019. It was going to swallow it, complain at the United Nations, and move on as if nothing had happened. And Iran believed that. It kept attacking, kept sending drones, kept firing missiles. It was the perfect scenario for them. But there was another conversation going on. One that no one could see. Mohammed bin Salman knew what the inaction in 2019 had cost. He knew that Iran had come out of that episode convinced of just one thing: Saudi Arabia would never react. And it was exactly that conviction that encouraged Iran to come back in 2026 with more strength, more boldness, and much less fear. If the kingdom didn't respond this time, the message would be even clearer. You can attack as much as you want, there will be no consequences. There was a limit, and Iran had reached it. Think about it for a second. You are in Mohammed bin Salman's place. Your country is being bombed week after week. 2 civilians dead, 1 American soldier dead, refineries on fire, and the whole world waiting to see if you will do something. What would you do? Behind the scenes, away from the cameras, away from official statements, Mohammed bin Salman was making a decision that no leader had made before. A decision that would change Saudi Arabia's position in the Middle East forever. He was going to attack Iran directly on Iranian soil. At the end of March 2026, the Royal Saudi Air Force takes off. Without any announcement, without a press conference, without asking anyone for permission, Saudi fighter jets cross the airspace. And they hit targets inside Iranian territory. For the first time in history, Saudi Arabia directly attacks the territory of its main enemy. But what came next was even more surprising. After attacking, Saudi Arabia informed Iran that it was Saudi Arabia. Through diplomatic channels in private, they sent the message, "It was us, and we'll do it again if necessary." It wasn't a bluff. It was a direct message. And certain. It was cold. It was calculated. And it worked. And Saudi Arabia was not alone in this. The Emirates also responded. The country that for years had tried to keep the peace with Iran, that had avoided any direct confrontation, that had bet on diplomacy, reached its limit. And when it did, it went beyond what anyone expected. In early April 2026, Emirati Mirage 2000 fighter jets secretly took off and attacked the Lavan Island refinery, one of Iran's main oil facilities located in the Persian Gulf. The attack caused a massive fire and practically paralyzed operations at the site. Iran itself admitted that the refinery had been hit, but the most revealing detail came later. To coordinate this operation, the United Arab Emirates worked directly with Israel. The head of the Israeli intelligence service secretly traveled to the Emirates at least twice during the war. And, to top it off, Israel even sent Iron Dome missile defense system batteries along with Israeli personnel to operate the equipment inside the territory of the Emirates. Think about that for a moment. A Gulf Arab country receiving Israeli soldiers on its territory to defend itself from Iran. If someone had said that 5 years ago, no one would have believed it. Iran had achieved the impossible. It had united against itself countries that historically would never have come close to each other. The numbers tell this story better than any words. In the week from March 25th to 31st, 2026, Iran fired more than 105 projectiles at Saudi Arabia. Drones, missiles, a constant bombardment day after day. The following week, after the Saudi response, that number dropped to less than 25. It was no coincidence. Iran backed down. Immediately, no public statement, no admission of anything, but they backed down. They stopped direct attacks against the kingdom and started using allied groups in Iraq to keep up the pressure from a distance, avoiding direct confrontation with Saudi Arabia, as if suddenly they remembered that Takala had a price. Because there is a language that governments like Iran's understand, and it's not the language of diplomacy. The truth is that the Middle East that exists today is no longer the same as it was before this war. For decades, Saudi Arabia depended on the United States for its defense. It bought American weapons, hosted American bases on its territory, and relied on the Americans to protect it in case Iran decided to attack. It was like having the strongest neighbor on the block on your side. But in this war, the Americans were there.
As bases estavam
And Iran attacked anyway. Iranian missiles hit the American bases themselves on Saudi soil. The protection didn't stop anything. It was at that moment that Saudi Arabia made a decision that no analyst expected. They crossed a line they had never crossed before. They attacked Iran on Iranian soil for the first time in history. Without asking for permission, without announcing it, and Iran backed down. One undeniable fact is that the Middle East that exists today no longer operates by the same rules as before. Saudi Arabia is no longer a country that absorbs attacks in silence and has become an actor that operates independently when it deems it necessary. This changes the calculations for everyone in the region: Iran, the United States, Israel, and the smaller countries that are watching. And the question that always remains is, what happens next time? And you, what do you think? Did Saudi Arabia do the right thing by attacking Iran in secret? Or could this response make the conflict in the region even worse? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you think. If this video helped you better understand what's happening in the Middle East, share it with someone who also needs to know about this. And if you haven't yet, now is the time. There's much more coming. See you in the next video.